Hi, good afternoon. Very warm welcome to you. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, go and get yourself a coffee. Sit down, have a little discussion with Uncle Gene. And of course, you're more than welcome to leave comments on your thoughts and views, whichever they are. Let's see what your thoughts are on these subjects that we're going to touch on today. We're a couple of days away from taking the SD cards out of the Trimag system and the magnetosphere sensor here. Yesterday I updated Kendall's magnetometer data, and of course when we done the Earth Health at a glance, we also put his muon data in there, and he's back off his holidays now. Good to have you back, Kendall, and we'll be receiving data regularly from him. A few people think that, believe it, but can you believe this, that he doesn't exist, and one day we're going to just have him on the show. He's an amazing guy. He's very dedicated to keeping us supplied with the information from his magnetometer and also his muon detector, and he is absolutely a very reliable guy when it comes down to sending the data. We owe him a lot, to be fair. We really owe him a lot. I would love to pay people to send that data to me. They do it freely using their own electricity and their own time. Very few people in this world, in this day and age, are genuinely that good. And so, that's why I call them superstars. So, I wanted to start just briefly. I'm not going to go on about it too much because I know it's just one of those things. It's either going to get better or it's going to get worse. And then, at that point, we'll do something about it. And of course, I'm talking about the funding. I want to say a big thanks to Jennifer, who made a contribution today, which will make a significant impact. I'm trying to bring this observatory back into the green. It's a terrible show. I've got to say that. We've got 64,500 people who are subscribed to the channel. We have 20,000 people view it. And because it is free, and it is not mandatory that people make donations. They don't. But what I wanted to say is that this, guys, is your observatory. This isn't owned by any government official authority. It is very much your observatory, and I want you to look after it and treat it like it's yours. This is your home observatory. And, we do cover a lot of stuff. We cover atmospheric CO2, atmospheric oxygen. We've got our own Trimag system. Put this into perspective. That to have somebody build that Trimag system would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. And sometimes when we do the pulse shift update twice a month now, as we do, we're lucky if we can raise 50, 60 pounds. So we're using, nearly £250,000 worth of equipment to raise £60. And that's sort of the thing that frustrates me a lot. And, at the end of the day, this is your observatory. And I want you to treat it like that. We're collecting the data for the general public. And it's reliable data that we collect, because ordinarily, otherwise, we would have to rely, like everyone else on YouTube, regurgitating mainstream organisations' findings and data. We cannot be lied to at this observatory. If they say the magnetic North Pole is in a different location to where we say it is, we're going to call them out. We're going to call them out and say, that's BS. We've got equipment dedicated to tracking that magnetic North Pole every 3 seconds. So even if we're talking about some other subjects, and the subjects that I'm going to talk about are definitely relatable to you in this, we're going to talk about them shortly. The main thing is that you should help yourselves keep this observatory. That's the bottom line. It's not about helping me. You're not keeping me, you're keeping your observatory. This is your home here, the maverickstar Observatory, and this information is collected solely for you. So you should look after it if you want to keep receiving that information. And you should also, charter yourself to look after those people that ordinarily wouldn't be able to afford to, help and support and keep something like this. But nevertheless, they're not barred to the access of the information that we share with people. So it's important, when we look at what's going on in this world right now, it is slowly being destroyed economically by the pursuit of net zero. You know what I'm talking about. Countries all around the world that want to achieve a zero production in atmospheric CO2. And it is not only an extra tax, let's call it what it is, it's a stealth tax. They've got to collect that money from somewhere. Where do you think it's going to come from? The United Kingdom have dedicated £100 billion every year to this cause. And the United Nations have said they want to raise 500 billion every single year. And that means that it's going to come from all those countries that are, supporting the United Nations. That's your country, my country, countries all over the world. And these organisations are destroying our lives. And things are very soon going to take a different stance. Our life is going to change dramatically, not just because of the artificial intelligence which is being outrolled now. Everyone can get access to this. You can get access to this freely. It is even on YouTube now. If I want, I can access the artificial intelligence there. I can go on GB News, access their artificial intelligence, download that app. I can have my own version of it. But I've played about with it. And the way I can describe it is very not that intelligent. It's almost like it tries to wing a subject that it talks on, which means it doesn't have all the specifics, but it just has around basic knowledge, and it will concentrate around things that are not the most important thing about a specific topic. So it will talk, let's say we're talking about magnetic poles. It will talk about the magnetic pole, and it will talk about why your compass points to that magnetic pole, but it won't talk about the specifics of the magnetic pole. It won't even say, for instance, that your compass doesn't even point at one of the highest intensities of magnetism on this planet. It points in between the two of the main ones over the northern hemisphere. But artificial intelligence wouldn't know that. It just wouldn't know that. So on any specific detailed topic, it will only give you the broad range, not the specifics. So artificial intelligence is not that smart after all. But what is alarming is where they are driving this technology. And I come across some very interesting statistics the other day about a particular industry, and that was the porn industry. And it said on any given week that 300 billion people would pursue watching some form of porn. And it's no wonder why, there is at the moment a push to use artificial intelligence with synthetic humanoid beings. I'm not joking. And we know what they're going to be used for. They are targeting this at the sex industry. So you can see they are going to destroy relationships between man and woman in the not too distant future. And the reason why they're going to do that is because simply, can you imagine somebody that doesn't really want to have a particular type of relationship, but would definitely enjoy being facilitated with a robot which has synthetic skin, and they're working really hard at this now. It's almost unknowable, but it will also have artificial intelligence. So you can design, choose the female robot or the male robot, whichever you want. You can have it in any particular genital size you want, and it will it will at some point service you just as a partner would. Only you can choose the way it looks. You can choose what you want about it, and not only will it will meet your needs in the bedroom, it will also meet the needs around the home. And they're also talking. I know this is crazy, but imagine this: the industry is massive, and companies are taking this really serious. They want to capitalize on the 300 billion people that are watching porn of some sorts every week. That is a huge market, and we know how bad that market is. The industry is absolutely, one of the most revolting industries on the planet. But there is obviously an appetite for 1/3 of this Earth's population to, in one way or another, engage in viewing that sort of thing. So they are going to use robotics, artificial intelligence, and combine them in one to meet, those requirements for people. And it is going to destroy, the normal relationship between people, because these robots are never going to say no. They are going to be there as a complete and utter slave to the owner of these. I know already that, without the robotics and the artificial intelligence, that you get a lot. I think it's very common in places like China and Japan and other countries, that you can get these silicon models which look very real, and these guys have got them sitting round at the dining room table. They don't talk, but they will do soon. But my point is this: we live in a world, I was trying to explain to someone today, where we like a variety of choice. The mobile phone these days is not just a mobile phone. It's a camera, it's a calculator, it's a diary, it's a communications device. We can also do video calls on this. This was stuff that was just dreamed about 15, 20 years ago, and it's all in this one device. And we like things like that. We like varieties, and we like to be, because every one of us is individual. We like choices, and we don't always like the same choices. That makes us like individuals, each individuals. So we can tailor what specifically we like. And if what you'll find is what we're doing already is not only do we like different foods and we pursue certain things. Like tonight you might want pizza, you might want a hamburger, or we do hot dogs on the run or something like that, or it might be a lasagna or mac cheese or whatever. The thing is that you will be able to choose your partner like those things, and I don't think we even grasp where artificial intelligence is eventually going to go, because it's obviously moving in the robotics industry. If we look at the things that DARPA are creating, we know exactly where things are going. If we look how the war is going in the Ukraine, how mechanicalized the success of a lot of drone strikes are. 30 years ago, this would have been impossible for a small army like the Ukraine to take on one of the world's largest armies. The only way they can do it is with these new unconventional types of weapons. It's very quickly been realised that drones are now an important strategic necessity in the battlefield. You see, we are using all this technology for absolutely the wrong reasons. It doesn't, it's always used in a negative way, or the majority of it is used in a negative way. And it's going to take jobs. People are trying to figure out how they can use artificial intelligence now to replace their need to go to work. So this is something you might want to think about yourself. I have seen some pretty good artificial intelligence in terms of stock market analysis and purchasing. I watched a guy write his own AI program, and he combined that with a stockage account, so he could trade stocks, and he gave the II £1,000, and it had made 3 trades in 24 hours, and 2 of the trades had made good money, one of them hadn't, but the initial profit was plus and not negative, showing that these can be applied, and it would be, with extra fine tuning, be even more successful. This was just a brief experiment he did to find out whether it could or not, and it did. It was very successful. Now, I said that at the beginning that they're not really intelligent, they generalize, but they can be tweaked. And I think that, you know, the ones that we're being given access to are the very dumbed down versions of what is possibly plausible. I mean, we haven't heard of quantum artificial intelligence. Now, that might be something really big in the future, and something a lot more potent and powerful than what we're watching right now come out. But we're losing jobs all the time. We integrate new technology, and our governments don't seem to care one iota about this. They don't care. You know, right now in the UK, housing markets have collapsed 6% on the total value in less than 7 months. So if your house was worth 100,000, you've just watched £6,000 of that asset disappear. And this is going to increase. Another thing that the mainstream media are not talking about, and somebody has done some research that was very cunning, and I love the way they went about this. They started to wonder whether the housing market was under pressure, and in particular the buy-to-let housing market. And it is. People that have brought second houses, that have let them out, are selling them or panic selling them at the moment. And this is also means that they're flooding the market with property, and like any other commodity, when it goes into the market at an alarming amount, you know, the price comes down. So we're going to see a further increase on the value of properties. But the reason why they're doing it, these people suspect, is because the interest rates have gone up, and the rent is not covering now the mortgage. And so that if you've got a small portfolio of about 3 or 4 houses or even more, you can imagine that if one of those mortgages went up £400, like a friend of mine's did recently, it went up £400. His fixed rate interest came to an end, and then it went from 1% to 6%. So his total increase on his mortgage was £400. He's not getting £400 extra from his employer. He's got to absorb that cost. Now, what happens when it goes up even more? How are people going to afford to live? This is what we're seeing right now. It's not been talked about way half enough. And, you know, we are going to see, well, if you look in America, well, not just America, the car finance industry is trillions of dollars and pounds in the red now because of the defaults on the car loans. This is just the start. Starts with the car. You get rid of the car before you get rid of the house. And when you're backed up into the corner even more, you've got no choice. You've got to get rid of the house. And then there's a knock-on effect with that. You ain't got a house. You know, it ain't going to be long before you lose your job. You know, if you can't turn up at work smart with your shirt nice and crisp and clean and ironed, and you smell, you know, you're going to be first to go. So you lose your house, your car, your job. Where's that put you then? I'm telling you now, cities are going to become the last place you want to live, because they are going to wring the very last coins out of your pocket if you try and stay in them. And I've been telling you now this for quite some time. You know, if you'd have listened to me a year ago, you'd have got out the housing market with an extra £6,000 in your pocket than what you would have today. Think about that. We are facing a greater recession than what we have, and it is at that point right now. It has already been noted that this is a deeper recession than 2008. It was forecasted that this would be not a recession in any case. It would resemble something like in the early 1900s, more along the lines as a Great Depression. And, you know, it's certainly looking like that, because you know, the financial institutes are not being able to control the problem. If you look at the Baltic Dry Index, which I brought to your attention, that after a specific time you can see that almost cardiac arrhythmia behaviour after, I think it was 2002 or 2005. This shows you that the global economy at the moment is in a state of a heart attack. And, you know, if you read the comments, you'd have read the comment that that lady left, you know, saying, you know what, Gene, you're absolutely right about people turning up to food banks in their Mercedes, getting out there, standing in the line, waiting for, you know, their handouts in designer clothes and very expensive trainers. And then when they get what they're given, you know, they're that ungrateful, they throw it on the floor in front of all those people that genuinely need it. This is the state of the mindset of a few individuals. They moaned, apparently, about the choice of food. They moaned about what type of food they was given, and they moaned about the quantity of food that they was given. Unbelievable, isn't it? The times that we live in. What is wrong with people, and why will they not work with each other in this day and age? Because that has always been the way of success in the past. It is proven that strength in numbers thrive more than individuals, but people still out there on their own thinking that what they're doing is going to benefit them, and it's just a matter of time before the true reality of that, you know, mindset comes around and burns their fingers. Not once. They'll put the hand in the fire twice and burn the fingers again, and they'll keep doing it. They just don't learn. So we are in a lot of trouble. Now, I don't know whether you've been watching Russell Brand this week, because he has named 2 people that work for the government. One of them is part of the 77th Battalion of Psycho Ops. So it is his job to infiltrate the enemy and make them think differently, and also using those psyops, you know, to psychologically change their thought pattern. This individual and his wife, the minister, I believe she is, are the ones that are responsible for kicking YouTube's arse and telling them to, you know, withdraw the funds from certain individuals like Russell Brand, like myself. But listen to this. This army guy who works for the 77th Brigade of PsyOps or whatever he is, his job is to, in a battlefield, deal with the enemy using these PsyOps. And these very same tactics now are being used on members of the public in the UK. And she writ a letter to YouTube saying that Russell Brand should be demonetised. And that is a complete no against the Human Rights Bill, which entitles people to be able to talk freely about certain things, express their thoughts, not certain things, on anything they want, express their thoughts and talk to whoever they so call and want and please. Now, we have actually found the mechanism of which they're using. So we know that there are not just content now with going online and becoming agitators in the comments section of people's videos, stirring up trouble, stirring up a certain way of thought. So be careful, because these people work for the government, probably GCHQ, I don't know, but they're definitely about, and they're making the rounds on the alternative media platforms because they want their brainwashed civilians back, and we have taken them off them. The mainstream media are suffering, hemorrhaging, a loss of attention by the majority of the people because we have got used to their propaganda. And like I said, we like choices. Some of you like to listen to Russell Brand, some of you to myself. Some of you might listen to David Devine, 2030, and lots of others. But that's your choice. And now you're choosing what you want to watch and where you want to get your news from. And the mainstream media hate that, because the government have lost its voice box and communication tool with the general public. And that's why they're sending out people from the 77th Brigade of the British Army, which are in charge of psychological operations in a battlefield and targeting civilians like me. And his wife is going around threatening companies like YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, TikTok, etc., etc., saying that the money should be withdrawn, they should be demonetized. Otherwise, we're going to see you as an organisation that is causing public harm, and we're going to shut you down. This is the way the whole picture fits together, and it's disgraceful, because if the British government allowed the British Army to target civilians in such a manner, when they know that all this they are using is their tongues in their mouth, talking about subjects which they're entitled to and are freely, rightfully so, allowed to do, then we have a government which is nothing short of tyrannical and terror. They're the terrorists, is what I want to say. They are the terrorists of freedom, and they don't belong in our democracy, because we know now what their democracy represents. No truth whatsoever. They cannot fix. Our British government are lazy, and I know your governments are the same. They can't fix this situation that we're in right now. They've lost all control of any grips they had on anything in this country, and it is cascading out of control, and they will not tell you that. We don't know how bad this is all going to turn out, but it's getting worse and worse. I guarantee you now. Watch out for Christmas. Things are going to get really hard for people around the Christmas time. You know, you need to stand the lines, hold the lines, and stand together right now if you want to get through these coming years. It's not just what the Mother Nature of our world is throwing at us with climate change. It's more so what these two organisations, in my view, the two worst organisations on this planet are the United Nations and the European Union, both unelected. They take it upon themselves to be official government bodies. Nobody elected them. Where is that in the democracy? What sort of democracy, just takes it upon themselves that we are going to represent now the world or the whole of Europe? What sort of democracy is that part of? The Secretary General of the United Nations, who elected him? We didn't. We didn't vote. We didn't have a vote. He's a self-elected Nazi, just like Hitler. Only, the thing is with Hitler is he was actually voted in. This guy wasn't, and he's got that much power. He wants to raise £500 billion. Oh my God, that's your money, that's my money. And right now, we could do with having that money being spent on more worthwhile things, not chasing, cow farts, saying that CO2 is responsible for global warming. What sort of a world am I living in and partaking in right now? And what sort of world are you living in and partaking in? It's getting out of control, and you must be like me, feeling angry every day about things that are not getting any better, but just appear to get worse. And we're told, accept it. Extra £400 on your mortgage. Just you absorb that. So what are we supposed to cut now? Don't buy any clothes a month. Go to work with no lunch every month. Don't go and see the parents because that will require putting some fuel in the car. So you cut back on all these things. Remember what happened. First people lost the car, then they lost the house, then they lost the job, and then they're on the streets. And then they're saying at Davos, you'll own nothing and be happy. You tell me one person that you've seen on the streets that's dancing and skipping. Tell me. Do you think they're happy? I just don't know where they get it from. Like, who comes out with these things? What sort of reality are they actually living in? We hear about these officials that arrive in private jets, get taken to venues in a limo, a mile away or half a mile away. They get given a push bike, so that when they arrive at the climate debate, it looks like they're nice and clean and fresh. Only they're just in that private jet flight used up more carbon and CO2 than someone would do in a normal life of 5 years. And the cheeky bastards turn round and accuse us that we've got to clear up our act. It's no wonder people won't watch the mainstream media. It's no wonder why the BBC are no longer considered a serious news, outlet, because all they are regurgitating is the BS that is being sent down the pipe from the government. And the government would love us all to be pacified in the knowledge that our society is doing great. There are plenty of jobs out there. Immigration isn't a problem, etc., etc., etc. Couldn't be any further away from the truth. And you guys know it. So, thanks for letting me share some of these ideas and concepts and talk about these things with you. I always read your comments in the comment section. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. And, take a bit of heed and notice about what I said about trying to look after this observatory, because it's yours. This is your observatory. And you're the only ones that are getting, access to the information that we produce right now with our equipment. And then if that's gone, you've only got mainstream organisations and the people that regurgitate that on YouTube already. We don't do that. In a couple of days, we will get the SD cards out of our own equipment and we'll share that information with you. We just would love to see a few more people, join us and support us. And if you're one of those people that don't mind taking a little bit of time out and using voluntary your own money, and I mean that because otherwise it just gets took off you and spent on whatever they want. A couple more F-35s, a couple more F-22 Raptors, another aircraft carrier, some more Starstreak missiles to send over to Ukraine. Or why not just chuck a big pile of money together in a container, send that to Ukraine as well. What I'm saying is your choice here. At least you get to choose where you invest it in science. And why not invest in an observatory that is honestly out here to help the general public? It's up to you. Link down there if you want to. And I'm going to say what I usually do, guys. It's been emotional. You take care of your loved ones. As always, bye for now.